Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions, and today's story? It begins with a locked drawer, a stupid scented candle, and a sentence I'll never forget. I just want to be alone tonight. That's what she said, right before she closed the bedroom door on me like I was some salesman trying to sell her a new version of our crumbling marriage. But let's back up. The candle, yeah? That stupid candle. Autumn crisp. She lit it that night, even though she knows I'm allergic to strong fragrances. I sneezed twice when I walked in. No apology. She didn't even look up. Just sat there on the edge of our bed scrolling through her phone like the room didn't also contain the man she married 7 years ago. The man who still remembers the exact number of freckles on her back. I asked her if she wanted to watch our usual Thursday documentary. She said, "I just want to be alone tonight." She didn't say it with sadness, or even anger, just emptiness. I wish she had yelled, thrown something, given me something to work with. But nope, just 5 flat words and a door that clicked shut so softly, it might as well have been the lid of a coffin. So I sat, at the dining table, in silence, next to her half-eaten Caesar salad. You know what I did? I opened my laptop and started typing, "Is my wife depressed?" into Google like some broken college kid searching for late-night answers. But I wasn't ready for what I'd find the next morning. She left early. Too early. Like, left before the sun came up early. No goodbye. Just a cold spot in the bed and the scent of that candle still clinging to the air like a lie. And then I saw it. The drawer under her side of the desk was cracked open just an inch. The one she always kept locked. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But I did. And inside, not cash. Not secrets from her childhood. No. A second phone. Still powered on. Still warm. The lock screen lit up just as I picked it up. A message flashed across it. "So what excuse did you use this time?" My heart didn't even drop. It shattered. Quietly. Like a wine glass in snow. Read it. That's when I knew. "I want to be alone tonight" wasn't a boundary. It was a cover. And I was about to uncover everything. I know you're not supposed to snoop. I get it. I've read the articles. If you go looking for something, you'll find it. But you know what? Sometimes it finds you. That second phone, the one hidden in the locked drawer, had no password. No facial recognition. Just open access, like it wanted to be discovered. Like some cruel cosmic joke where the truth was only hidden until I heard enough to deserve it. The most recent messages weren't even subtle. The first thing I saw when I tapped into the thread with the unknown number was a selfie of her. Not scandalous or anything. Just her sitting in the car, lips pursed, eyes tired, hair tied up in the messy bun she always said she wore only for me. But this one wasn't for me. On my way, I told him I'm tired. "Be there in 20, she'd written. The timestamp? 7:46 p.m. The same night, she told me she wanted to be alone. Alone. Every message after that chipped away at whatever fragments of "maybe she's just confused" I had left in me. They joked about me. About how I wouldn't get it. About how I still folds her laundry like he's trying to win a trophy. One even read, "He's too soft to suspect anything. That's why it works." And they were right. I was too soft. I still am. I'm the kind of guy who refills the ice tray. Who rewatches her favorite shows just so I can get her inside jokes. Who once left work early just to bring her lemon tea during a fake sick day. Yeah, I'm that guy. So I did something incredibly pathetic. I sent myself the screenshots. Every message. Every timestamp. Every photo. I didn't even know why. Maybe for proof? Maybe because part of me still didn't believe my own eyes. Or maybe because I knew that one day, she'd look me in the eye and try to lie, and I'd need the evidence to stop myself from forgiving her again. But I didn't confront her. No, I didn't even mention it when she walked in later that night smelling like peppermint and a lie. She said her coworker had a birthday, and they did dinner. She kissed me on the cheek. The cheek. She hadn't done that since her grandmother's funeral. That kiss used to mean, "I'm tired, I'm hurting, but I'm still yours." This time, it meant, "Here's your script. Stick to it." And I did. I played along like an idiot in my own life story. I asked how the birthday dinner was. She said, "Fine," and changed into pajamas. I watched her fall asleep in the bed I had just made that morning, and I sat in the bathroom with the door locked, holding her other phone in my hands, trying not to scream. I didn't sleep. I barely blinked. Because what I read next wasn't just infidelity. It was planning. Messages from 3 weeks back. A hotel reservation under a fake name. The same name she used in college when she didn't want weird guys to hit on her at clubs. She used it now like a weapon, not to protect herself, but to hide from me. And then I saw it. A message from him. Tell him whatever. Just don't bail on the weekend. I've already booked the place. Weekend? I checked the calendar. She had told me she was visiting her sister for the weekend, that they needed girl time, that they were going to binge sad movies and do face masks. No, she was going to him. And me? I was supposed to be home, probably crying over a lasagna for one, waiting for her to text miss you. I didn't even know how to process it. So I did something I'd never done in our entire marriage. I lied. The next morning, I smiled and told her, have fun at your sister's. I even handed her the overnight bag she packed, like I was some kind of concierge to her betrayal. She smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, you're the best, you know that? Yeah, I knew it. And that's exactly why it was going to hurt when I gave her what she asked for. Because this time, I wasn't just going to let her be alone. I was going to make sure she stayed that way. She left on a Friday morning. She said she was taking the early bus to her sister's place in Valparaiso, claimed her sister's husband was going to be out of town, and they needed a little sisterhood detox. She even rolled her eyes dramatically like it was some inside joke I'd never understand. I nodded, helped zip her duffel bag, and handed her a thermos of the cinnamon coffee she loved. I even wrote, have fun, on a sticky note, and placed it under the handle. I watched her drive off in a rideshare. I watched until the taillights disappeared. And then, I closed the door, exhaled shakily, and sat down at the kitchen counter like I was waiting for some invisible jury to read the verdict on my marriage. Here's the part that makes me feel pathetic. Even now, a small part of me still hoped I was wrong. Still hoped there'd be a twist. That this would all be some weird misunderstanding, and she'd come back early and say, surprise, I really was with my sister. And I'd cry and hug her, and we'd fix things. But the messages I had printed and folded in my hoodie pocket said otherwise. The hotel she was staying at, not even an hour away. A little hidden gem, in with rustic decor, meant for couples who didn't want to be seen. She wasn't being clever. She was being comfortable. I didn't follow her. I didn't crash the room. I didn't make a dramatic scene in the hotel lobby. I did something worse. I made the house forget her. I started with the pictures. Not throwing them out. No, that would have been satisfying. I filed them away, carefully, into a box labeled August. It was always August when she smiled most. I put that box in the crawl space and sealed the door like it would silence the ache in my chest. Next, her favorite throw blanket from the couch, the one she insisted we buy in that overpriced boutique downtown, gone. I folded it and shoved it in the linen closet under the backup sheets. Her toothbrush? Back of the drawer. Her slippers? Into a donation bag. By sunset, there were no signs of her left in the living room or kitchen. And still, the house felt like it echoed her name with every creak. And then, I made a choice. I walked into our bedroom and opened my nightstand. My passport was still there. So was the envelope of cash we kept hidden for emergencies. I counted it. $1,200. I hadn't been anywhere in years. I hadn't been anyone in even longer. So I packed. Not out of anger. Not to hurt her. But because suddenly, I realized that maybe I didn't have to sit here and wait for her to return just so she could hurt me again with a smile and a made-up story. I booked a small cabin in northern Michigan. Quiet. Remote. No Wi-Fi. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I left before she came home. I scribbled a note and left it on the fridge, just one line. You said you wanted to be alone tonight. Now you are. I shut off my phone, threw it in the kitchen drawer, locked the house, and left without a single backward glance. But 2 days later, the voicemail started. And they weren't what I expected. The air at the cabin hit different. It wasn't cold, exactly, just crisp enough to remind you that you were somewhere the world couldn't find you. Surrounded by pine trees that whispered louder than people ever do. I parked my car and stared at the crooked wooden sign that said, Rest Hollow, Weekly Rentals. It felt right. Hollow was exactly how I felt. Inside, the place was basic. One bed, one small fireplace, a battered coffee table, and a few books left behind by other people running from something. The fridge buzzed like it was the only heartbeat in the room. There were no mirrors, just blank, wooden walls that didn't ask you to look at yourself. That first night, I sat on the porch with a cup of black coffee, listening to the wind stir leaves like secrets, and for the first time in months, I felt nothing. Not pain, not clarity, just a kind of dull silence that wrapped around my bones and said, good. Stay here. I didn't check my phone. I didn't even take it with me. I left it dead in the drawer at home because I knew what it would say. I could practically hear the texts without reading them. Hey, where are you? We need to talk. This is ridiculous. You're overreacting. I didn't do anything. Because that's the thing about people who betray you. They don't fear the hurt they caused. They fear losing control of the story. But I wasn't writing stories anymore. I was letting the silence write me. On the second day, I found a note inside one of the books, scribbled on the inside flap in fading ink. You don't lose yourself all at once. You vanish one apology at a time. I must have read that line 10 times before I realized I was crying. Because that was me. That had been me. Every moment I let her tell me I was too sensitive or overthinking. Every night I swallowed my instincts. Every time I folded her clothes while wondering if someone else had unzipped her that weekend. All of it. Little apologies, tiny erasures of self. And still, even out there in the middle of nowhere, she found a way to pull me back. On the third night, I cracked. I drove into the nearest town, a quiet strip with one diner and a laundromat, and used a payphone outside the gas station. I called my own number and checked my voicemail. There were 6 messages. The first 3 were exactly what I expected. Her pretending nothing happened. Her asking if I needed time. Her acting like we were just having a weird week. But the fourth? That one was different. Emerson, I found the note. I don't know what you think you know. Please call me. I can explain everything. It wasn't what it looked like. He doesn't mean anything. I made a mistake. But I never wanted this. Please, don't disappear on me. Not like this. Her voice cracked on disappear. That was new. The 5th voicemail was even shakier. Are you trying to punish me? Because if you are, it's working. I can't sleep. I can't think. I've been calling your sister, your work, even your old landlord. No one's seen you. Emerson, where are you? Please, come home. Please. And then the 6th. The 6th one was what broke me. It started with silence. Just her breathing. And then, I went to his house. He laughed when I cried. He said it was never serious. That I was just something to do between his real relationships. He told me I was boring. That you were the fool who made me feel like I was someone special when I never was. I swear, I never saw it coming. Emerson, I'm so sorry. Please. I don't want to be alone anymore. That's when I realized the thing she thought she wanted, space, freedom, alone time, was only safe when she thought I was still orbiting her somewhere. Still hers. Still waiting like I always had. But I wasn't orbiting anymore. I was drifting. And maybe for the first time in our marriage, she was the one getting smaller in the distance. The 5th morning at the cabin started like the rest. Silence, coffee, and cold floorboards that made you forget the world was spinning outside. I just finished my last slice of bread and was considering a drive to the nearest grocery store when I heard the sound. Not the wind. Not a branch falling. A thud. Right outside the cabin door. I froze. There wasn't supposed to be anyone out here. No staff. No neighbors. And certainly no mail. I opened the door cautiously, expecting maybe a fallen tree limb or, I don't know, a raccoon-sized mystery. But it wasn't that. It was an envelope. Plain white. No writing. No stamp. Just sitting there, like it had been placed with care. The kind of care you only give when you know someone's home. I didn't touch it at first. I stood there, barefoot in the morning cold, staring at it like it might detonate if I breathed too hard. Then I stepped back inside, grabbed the fireplace poker. Yeah, I know how stupid that sounds, and nudged the envelope inside. It wasn't thick. Not a package. Just paper. 1 page. I tore it open, half expecting it to be some weird note from the owners saying my stay had ended or a warning about bears. But no, it was a letter. A real one. Handwritten in blue ink, with curled edges like someone had held it too long before letting it go. And it was from her. Kendra. Except not really. There was no Dear Emerson. No love, Kendra. Just 6 short lines. You left a void I can't fill. I've said I'm sorry, but I don't think you heard me. I lied to you, and to myself. I don't want a new beginning. I want the version of us that still laughed in the grocery store aisle. Please let me find you. That last line. It made my stomach twist. Please let me find you. She had no idea where I was. I didn't tell her. I hadn't used a credit card. My phone was off. I even used a fake name to reserve the cabin. So how in the hell did this letter find me? Unless she didn't send it. I paced for nearly an hour, playing the possibilities in my head like a horror movie script. Did someone from my family betray my location? Did she hire someone? Was this a coincidence? A prank? I even briefly considered that maybe someone else had been watching us all along. Someone who saw the cracks long before I did and decided to wedge them open. The paranoia settled in faster than the cold. I checked the windows, locked the door twice, and sat with my back against the wall that faced the road. But no one came. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept the letter on the table, reading it over and over again, trying to decipher what was real. The handwriting was hers. I'd seen enough grocery lists and birthday cards to know that. But the tone? It didn't feel like her. It wasn't laced with excuses or that subtle manipulative optimism she always used when she wanted to talk me down from the edge. This felt like resignation. And for some reason, that scared me more than anything. Because I realized I didn't know what she might do next. When I disappeared, I thought she'd be annoyed, maybe embarrassed. At worst, she'd curse me out, block my number, and vanish into a new life with some other guy who liked scented candles and lies. But this felt different. It felt like the start of a storm, the quiet kind that flips your house while you're still inside it. And the strangest part? Even though I hated her for what she did, part of me wanted her to find me. Part of me wanted to hear her voice again, just to make sure she was still real, that we were still real, that our mess wasn't just some temporary performance that got canceled without warning. But that would mean going back, or answering her next move. And I didn't know which terrified me more. The morning after the envelope, I didn't go outside. I kept the curtains drawn and sat in the cabin's only armchair with the letter on my lap, like it could still change meaning if I stared long enough. My coffee went cold. My thoughts never did. By noon, I told myself I was being paranoid, that someone from my family must have slipped, maybe my sister. Kendra was always good at getting people to talk. She had that soft, trembly voice that made you think you were the one being harsh just for setting a boundary. But at 4:13 p.m., that theory unraveled. I was watching the wind shift the trees again when I saw him. A man, standing maybe 40 feet back, just where the clearing met the first row of pines. Still, unmoving, arms at his sides. I didn't recognize him. He wore a dark, gray hoodie and jeans, nothing out of the ordinary. But there was something about the way he stood that made the hair on my arms stand up. I didn't go outside. I waited. I watched. He didn't knock, didn't wave, just stood there for almost a full minute. Long enough to make me question if I was losing it, and then slowly turned and disappeared into the trees without a sound. I rushed outside after a minute or two, but there were no footprints, no vehicle, just damp pine needles and the heavy hush of a forest pretending nothing had happened. I told myself he was a hiker, a lost camper, some lonely guy like me who rented the other cabin nearby. Except there was no other cabin. I checked when I arrived. Just one unit. Mine. When I went back inside, I locked the door and dug my phone out of the drawer. It was still off. I turned it on. 28 missed calls. 13 voicemails. All from her. The newest one was timestamped 2 hours earlier. Emerson, I don't know where you are, but I know you're listening. I talked to your sister. She said she didn't know, but I could tell she was lying. You think this is helping, but it's not. Please just talk to me. You don't have to forgive me. Just let me explain. That was the thing. She kept saying she needed to explain, like some verbal gymnastics routine could undo what she did. Like betrayal had a context that would make it easier to live with. I didn't listen to the other messages. I deleted them all in one motion, and it felt like slamming a door in a burning room. But the cabin no longer felt safe. Not because of her. Because of him. That man in the woods. The way he didn't move. The way he vanished. That night, I barricaded the door with a chair. Slept with a flashlight clutched in one hand like a weapon. Every creak of the old wood felt louder. Every gust of wind, more personal. And around 2:17 a.m., just as I was drifting into the shallowest sleep, I heard it. 3 knocks. Not urgent. Not loud. Just deliberate. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. A full minute passed. Then 2. No more knocks. No retreating footsteps. Just silence. In the morning, I opened the door to see if I'd imagined it. There was nothing. No figure. No footprints. Just a second envelope. This one had a return address. But it wasn't Kendra's handwriting. It was mine. I stared at the envelope for a full 10 minutes before I touched it. My name was written on it, Emerson Greeley, in a handwriting so familiar it made my skin crawl. It was mine. My letters. My slanted G and looping Y. The same script I used to sign birthday cards, fill out checks, and leave passive-aggressive notes on the fridge when Kendra left the sponge in the sink. But I didn't remember writing this. I hadn't written a letter in months, and definitely not to myself. I brought it inside like it might dissolve in daylight. Sat at the kitchen table, ran my fingers along the edge, opened it with the gentleness you reserve for a memory you're afraid to disturb. There were only 5 words on the page inside. You already know the truth. That was it. No return address after all. No signature. No explanation. Just those 5 words in my own handwriting, staring back at me like a dare. I laughed. Not a real laugh, more of a twitch. A sound you make when your brain is trying to leak through your mouth. I stood up, paced. I turned the page over. Nothing. I checked the envelope again. Empty. I sniffed the paper. Even, because I don't know, maybe I thought it would smell like her perfume or gasoline or something. But no, just ink. Paper. My own ghost. And that's when it hit me. I'd written this. But not recently. Not here. I'd written this before. And suddenly I remembered. 3 months ago, the week after her second business trip, I'd had a meltdown. She came back late, smelling like hotel soap, and gave me some story about a delayed flight. I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I just sat at the kitchen table that night and wrote letters. Letters I never sent. Letters to her. To myself. To the version of me that still believed her. I tore most of them up. But one I sealed. Folded. Labeled for when I finally understand. I had no idea what I meant back then. But now, I got it. You already know the truth. She didn't love me. Maybe she never had. Maybe I'd just been the pause between the people she really wanted to be with. The safe house between wildfires. The story she could point to later when she needed to remind herself she'd tried stability. I dropped the letter, grabbed my coat, and walked into the woods. I didn't care if the man was out there. In fact, part of me hoped he was. I wanted to ask him why he stood there. What he saw? Who he was. If he even existed outside of my unraveling mind. The trees swallowed me whole. I kept walking. Branches scratched at my face, my arms. I didn't care. I walked until I couldn't hear the wind anymore. Just the sound of my own breath and the rush of something that felt like panic. And that's when I found it. A clearing I didn't remember being there. In the center, a fire pit, long cold. Ash scattered. Burned wood still smoldering under layers of dirt and moss. Nearby, a tree stump with initials carved into it. E+K. I stumbled backward. I hadn't brought her here. I'd never brought anyone here. But those were our initials. And that carving was fresh. And right beside it was a torn photograph. Our wedding photo. Ripped in half. My face gone. I didn't move for a long time. Just stood there in the clearing with that torn wedding photo in my hands. My part of the picture missing like it had been intentionally erased. A cold wind pushed through the trees, and for a second, I genuinely wondered if I'd gone mad. Maybe the man in the woods was me. Maybe the cabin never existed. Maybe the whole thing was a metaphor for a breakdown no one saw coming. But then I heard the voice. Not inside my head. Real. Knew you'd find it eventually. I turned. She was there. Kendra. Standing just at the tree line. Breath visible in the air. Face pale. Eyes swollen. She wore the green jacket I once told her made her look like a storm in the middle of spring. It still did. How did you? I started, but she held up her hand. Your sister. I begged. I cried. I told her I wasn't here to win you back, just to tell you the truth where you'd actually believe it. I wanted to yell, to demand answers, but something in her voice made me pause. She didn't sound manipulative. She sounded exhausted. She walked into the clearing, stopped a few feet away. I didn't come here to fix things, Emerson. I came because I broke them, and I needed you to know. I finally understand what I threw away. I didn't say anything. I let her speak. She told me everything. That the affair was real. That she chased excitement because she was scared of how steady our life had become. That she thought love had to feel like adrenaline or chaos to mean something. But the problem, she whispered, was never you. It was me. I thought being loved quietly meant it wasn't real. But now I know it was the loudest love I've ever had. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to hear me say it. In person. Like a human. I nodded. That's all I did. And she nodded back. Then she handed me something. A photo, the other half of the one I found. My face. She hadn't destroyed it. She'd kept it. I brought tape, she said with a sad smile. In case you wanted to fix it. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. We sat on the stump for a while, just two people who had unraveled each other, staring at the trees. I don't know how long, but eventually, she stood, thanked me for listening, and walked back the way she came. She didn't look back. And for the first time since all of this began, I didn't want her to. I stayed at the cabin 2 more days. I burned the letter I'd written to myself. I left the taped wedding photo in the drawer under the bed, not out of spite, but as a reminder to whoever came next that healing is messy and real love leaves behind echoes, not ashes. I came home the next week, got a new apartment, started cooking again, started writing again, not letters, but stories. Ones where the main character doesn't always win, but learns how to rebuild something better from what's left. And sometimes, when I walk through the grocery store and catch someone laughing in the cereal aisle, I smile. Because once, I loved someone who smiled like that. And now, I love myself more than I ever thought I could. What about you? Have you ever vanished to heal? Or wished you could? Let us know in the comments a time in your life when you had to walk away to find peace. And if this story meant something to you, don't forget to subscribe. You're watching Reddit Confessions, where stories don't just get told, they get felt.